If there was a way to sell your house quickly, everyone wants to know how to sell their home as fast as possible. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming. Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same. It is a massive mistake, and it's a mistake that will cost you money, not the agents. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Charlie Lambden grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie. As you might guess, he's passionate about uncovering the truth and how the property market functions.
But here's my advice on how to price when you're renegotiating. There's nothing else you need. If you've got this 150 quid, that's it, you can move in.
Oh, right. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards 2022.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Charlie Lambden. Welcome to another live stream with Moving Home with Charlie. And let me begin on this Sunday evening in January by welcoming the hundreds of new subscribers that keep joining. And I'm quite excited to share with you that this evening we are at 9,946 subscribers. So probably passing the 10,000 mark very soon. Maybe overnight tonight, maybe tomorrow. If it happens on this call, I'm going to have to shout, and Anne-Marie will bring up a bottle of champagne, and I'll crack open the champagne and have a glass of bubbly on if it happens before the end. Not expecting it to. That's another 54 subscribers in 1 hour. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. I hope everyone is having a lovely evening. I also wanted to say straight away that my podcast has been just really quite surprised me. It was almost just an experiment. And that's, I mean, in the first 28 days, 900 downloads. And so I want to say to anyone who's listening to this on podcast, because you haven't got time to watch me blathering on for an hour on YouTube, that all of the links I refer to that are underneath the description on YouTube are also underneath the description on the podcast when I post it. So if you're listening to this on podcast, I'm talking about links. Have a look below in any of this or the other live streams that you're listening to. Okay. How sure am I about my 35% peak to trough house price fall prediction? And more importantly, what if I'm wrong? The idea for this evening's live stream was prompted by the following message that I got on YouTube today, which I'll put up on screen and read out now. It's really important. Okay. And I'm gonna take my time to go through this. All right. So Nick Banford, who I don't know how long he's been a follower, put a comment answering my video from last week about 16 verifiable reasons that UK house prices are crashing in 2023. And Nick said, "I'm sorry, I just don't believe this. You can't look at a small portion of a trend line and ignore the wider trend line, which is that house prices in the UK just keep growing. There may be a small dip right now, but we feel this is the best time to buy, as we will at least have some chance to get a property we want before it continues to rise in price out of control. This is just some breathing room while people adjust to higher mortgage rates. But I'm in that different position you mentioned, where we want a particular house and have the deposit to absorb any potential crash without going into negative equity, and want to stay for probably a long, long time." There's a lot to unpick in that. I'm going to come back to it. Before we come back to that, I want to go through a couple of other challenges that I've had as well. And I just want to point out, so I'm going to go through the tabs I've got on my screen in order. So I'm going to go next to this one. So this is a challenge that I had, which for me is a classic example of an unsubstantiated challenge. And this person, who I won't name, although it is a public comment on YouTube, says, and the reason I'm reading this out to you is because this to me is it's very opinionated, but not backed up, and in fact is factually incorrect a lot. But it sounds credible and it makes you think. And a lot of you might see comments like this. And so I want to go through this and give you my response to all of his points, so that if those of you who are not knowing what to believe and who to believe, and like, are they going up, are they going down, are they going to crash or not, you just want to buy a house, will understand my position and why I'm holding my ground. I will come back. I'll read that in a second. It's on no, I'll read it out. Right. So this chap says, in the 2008 crash, the drop only went to minus 15%. That is wrong. The steepest annual drop year on year was 15%, but they dropped for longer than that. And in total, house prices fell, I think, 26% in the Southeast. And it was over within a year. Also not true. Massive amounts of money printing means that money is there in circulation. Not true. It means you don't understand quantitative easing if that's what you think. If you sell now, you're selling at a low. Definitely not true. And we'll look at the ONS graph a bit later to explain to you why that is not true. So, I mean, sorry, my point is that so far, all of these things are demonstrably false or incorrect or wrong, and just a bloke down the pub type of stuff. If you sell now, you're selling at a low, which those with the money will be happy to snap up on cheap without having to pay a mortgage. Thus, rates are meaningless to them. Okay. Again, whilst people who are cash buyers are less affected by mortgage rates, they are certainly not meaningless because it affects the market. Those with fixed mortgages are not likely to sell either, as the rates are low. Well, if they've got them low for a long time, yes, but there are over 1 million people whose fixed rates are coming to an end this year, many of whom will not be able to afford the new payments. So that is also a false or incorrect statement. You mentioned 1970s crash. Yet if you look at the price of a home in Britain then and now by Sun Life, you'll see the long-term trend is up. Yeah, long-term trend is up. No one's disputing that. Any drop is meaningless on a long-term perspective. Not if you end up timing it so badly that you end up losing your home and your deposit to negative equity. And that is a life-changingly bad situation that some people never recover from. So it is absolutely wrong to say that any drop is meaningless on a long-term perspective when those drops can literally destroy people's lives. Especially when the trend after such a drop was another bull run. Less houses are built due to increased cost of materials and increased labor costs. There are increased costs of materials and labor, but that does not mean less will be built in the long run. Record levels of homelessness, lowest levels of council house building, people still need somewhere to live. Yes, but none of those things mean that everyone can afford to pay house prices that have become overinflated. So just without further ado, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to come back to the first comment and the chap saying that he disagrees with my views. This is a graph from UK Property Line on Twitter showing the average asking price. Okay, remember that, guys. Not actual prices, but this is asking price. But still, it's interesting to look at since April 2018 until the end of 2022. So it's a couple of months old. And there you can see that the average asking prices have dropped quite some considerable way since July last year. They've dropped from what looks like about 20,000 down to 460,000 there. And actually, I know that in January it's down, but it's at 440,000. So there's already a really quite big drop percentage-wise in asking prices from the peak to where they are today of around 20%, right? 515 under 440. No, not quite. But it's over 15% so far. All right. Next one. No, those two aren't relevant to. So let's come back to this first comment, and let me go through it one sentence at a time and respond. Okay. So Nick says, this is Nick Banford, who is obviously stating that he wants to buy now. I'm sorry, I just don't believe this. Okay, fair enough. Totally respect your opinion that you don't believe it. But in that video, I provided 16 links to government information. So I would love to know what part of it you don't believe. You know, go through all 16 links. Tell me which ones you think are not believable, or tell me why you think that they don't add up to what I'm suggesting is happening. He says you can't look at a small portion of a trend line and ignore the wider trend line, which is that house prices in the UK just keep growing. I accept his point there. I'm not looking at a small portion of a trend line. So again, my motivation for all of you who are new to this channel is to try and help. I want to help people move. I want people who need to sell, and who need to buy. And ultimately, what you pay doesn't matter as long as you can afford it. But what I'm trying to do is to prevent people who are out of touch with how big the time lag is in property price reporting to end up overpaying. Now, if you've bought at the very top and house prices are falling a long way, you've already overpaid. If you are, I'm generalizing here, right? But if you're paying asking prices now and house prices are going to fall as far as I think they are, then I think you've overpaid. So if, as he goes on to mention, he's staying there for a very long time and he can afford it, well, then that's okay. It doesn't matter. I agree with him. But what worries me is that he still doesn't want to believe what I'm saying. And I think it's a dangerous position to say, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. Long term's going to be fine, so I'm piling in now anyway. Now, he says, we're in that position that you mentioned where we want a particular house and have the deposit to absorb any potential crash. Okay, cool. So you are, he doesn't specify how big that deposit is, and therefore it doesn't necessarily mean that he's got enough to absorb any potential crash without going to negative equity. Cool. And we want to stay there for probably a long, long time. Okay. So if I'm right, you need to have at least a 35% deposit to make sure you don't end up in negative equity and not be buying a new home, because there's also an increased chance of that if you're buying a new home because you're paying the new home premium. He says he wants to stay for probably a long, long time. Okay, cool. But if, as it often does, life change. I know everyone has plans, but like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Such a great quote, that. And life often punches us in the face, doesn't it? So even if you don't have negative equity, you may not be able to sell. If you're close to negative, it's fine. So Nick, you are basically saying you don't believe the house prices are falling. Absolutely fine. You might be right. I might be wrong. Okay. But then you're saying, but anyway, I can absorb any potential crash without going to negative equity. Well, then that's cool. That's cool. If you are prepared to accept the possibility of a crash and you say that your deposit is large enough to absorb any potential crash, and you're staying for a long, long time, then those are the circumstances under which I would encourage you to buy now, but I would still encourage you not to overpay. All right. I'd still encourage you not to overpay. I'm not saying try and get yourself a steal, pay a fair price given everything that's happening. Now, if you don't believe that the house prices are falling and it's just been a small dip and that they're going to, okay, so you did say, yes, we feel this is the best time to buy, as we will at least have some chance to get a property we want before it continues to rise in price out of control. I want to address that sentence, okay? Continues to rise in price out of control. Okay. It's really important that you understand that the price rises of the last 14 years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, so the pandemic price rises, were utterly unsustainable price rise rates. If you look at the steepness of the spike on house prices, it's never ever sustained at that price. And secondly, although I've said earlier that quantitative easing doesn't just put money into the system, it has contributed to mortgage lending. Okay, not directly, but indirectly, it's made it safer for banks to lend mortgages, and so that has contributed to mortgage lending, and that's contributed to house prices. So the very, very low interest rates that we no longer have. So QE to an extent, low interest rates a lot, and then all of the COVID furlough and bounce back money that came flooding into the economy helped really spike prices up. None of those three things are happening. QE has stopped. Low interest rates have now gone, probably forever, from that incredibly low rate they were at. And there's no free money being given out by the government to get us through a pandemic. So I can't see any reason that prices are going to continue to rise, quotes, out of control. And if your motivation, which I get, right, it's a totally legitimate fear, which is if we don't buy now and prices go up, we might miss out. We might not be able to get on the ladder. I get that fear. But you've got to balance that and go, what are the actual likelihood of that happening? What is the actual likelihood of that happening? Go and read everything. Go and read this article that came out in the Telegraph, right? Just a couple of days ago. Why house prices could fall even further than feared. That I have linked to below. And I urge all of you to just sign up and get your free account for 7 days or whatever to read that article, because that article goes into lots and lots of detail, really gives you the data from Capital Economics, Oxford Economics, and really, really talks about the differences this time around. Mortgage affordability in London will be the worst than the financial crisis. I urge you to go and read that. And then ask yourself if you really think that there's a chance that house prices are going to continue to rise out of control. I just don't see it. I just don't see that happening. So I know that there are a lot of people in Nick Banford's position, and I get that, okay? But that comment that I read out there, whilst legitimate and understandable, is definitely one that I would say is born out of emotion and fear rather than rational assessment of all the data available to you. Let me now jump to the UK, so the ONS prices, and share this. Right. So this graph starts in 2006 and finishes in November 2022, so 2 months ago. And this graph is not a house price graph, it is an annual change in house price graph. And so you've got 0 here on the percentage, and anything above that line is positive year-on-year house price growth. Anything below it is, so down here, this is negative year-on-year house price growth. So what we had was the biggest price drop in 1 year in the 2008 crisis was a 15% year-on-year house price drop, okay? But that's not the total of it. House prices were in negative territory from May 2008, and again, don't forget that that's a lag, but May 2008 was when they were at 0, so they stopped growing. They went into negative territory in May 2008. They came back out at is it October, November? So October. So May to October 2009. So that's 18 months they were in negative territory. Now, you then had that spike back up for a while, which came back down again to negative territory. And that often happens after a big dip. People overbuy and it gets overheated quite quickly, then comes back down again. And that will probably happen again when we bottom out of this particular downturn. Now, let's bring it up to date, right? All the way up here. We're not even seeing the annual house price growth get anywhere near back to 0 on the latest figures, right? It's still 10% up in November, and yet no one's in denial now that house prices are falling. So you interpret that however you like, okay, about where we are right now with house prices falling. All right, because look what happened the last time they were at 10.3%. Okay, it's yeah, onwards. So guys, I want to what was the other one that I wanted to go through? So I've been through that one. Okay, now I've had another message today, a private message from someone who wants to sell and buy, and I think it's worth running through this as well for everybody. Bear with me, everyone. Let's just get this up on the screen there. Okay, so this was a private message, so I'm not revealing their name. Okay, so they said, we're going to market our current property at reasonable market prices as you have advised in your videos. Now, very quickly, they're talking about selling. Remember, to get an agreed deal, you have to catch the price as it's falling, which means you've got to put your asking price below what people are expecting to catch it. If you don't put your asking price below what people are expecting, you won't catch the market, you'll just miss it, right? If prices at £450,000 today for your kind of property, and you price it at £450,000, in a week's time, it's going to be too high. You've already missed it. And I was with members of my family in the last few days who have heard everything that I'm saying, but it hasn't gone in, and they still think that so someone has had a price fall through. Their sale that was agreed last summer, it's finally fallen through. They were dragged along and mucked around, and it's fallen through. And the thing about going on the market, and they're not hearing me about which agent to choose, and they're not hearing about the price, because that we're going to price it a bit higher than we know we should get for it, so that we can be seen to take a 10% knock and hopefully sell it. And I was like, no, don't do that. You won't sell it if you do that. And I think I got through. So this couple's going to market their current property at reasonable prices. Good. Get below the expected price to get the buying interest, to get more than one buyer competing, then you'll get a sale. He goes on to say, we viewed an unfinished new build property today on a small development, 10 properties. They've been marketing them at the same current price, 600K, since June 2022. So that's now 7 months ago. And I've been offering 50% contribution towards stamp duty. On the viewing today, the estate agent said that they have agreed, quotes, this morning, brackets conveniently, that they are increasing the incentive to 100% stamp duty. So rather than only offering 50% contribution, they've agreed just this morning that they're increasing to 100% stamp duty. But however, this was caveated with the asking price being fixed, as they, quotes, need to protect the future value of the development, end quotes. We were pretty confused by this and not sure if this is more estate agent guff or a real thing developers have to bear in mind. Would be amazing to get your thoughts on this. So here are my thoughts on this. We have to give the agent the benefit of the doubt. Maybe just this morning, the developer did say, today we're announcing it up to 100% of stamp duty we're going to be paying, provided people pay the full asking price. Well, I mean, they'll quickly find out if that's true, because the developer should publish that. But who knows? It does sound like guff. And if you weren't paying attention to channels like mine and being a bit skeptical about that kind of stuff, you might think, oh, that's great. It's just happened. Oh, let's quickly sign up and pay asking price. And guys, remember, most people moving house are not watching my channel. Most people are still thinking that things aren't going to be that bad, house prices aren't going to fall, etc., etc. And so there are people out there who, because of the same thinking as that chap I was reading his message out earlier, the buyer goes, prices might go back up and we might miss this opportunity, so let's jump on it now. But on this topic of developers needing to protect the future value of the development, well, if you're giving cash incentives, which paying stamp duty is a cash incentive, then all you're doing is protecting the book sale price of the property. And then the way that they do this in accounting, you've got to understand accounting to understand this, is right. The sale price goes down at the full, in the event they sell it for the full asking price, but then pay the full stamp duty costs. They book the sale in their accounts at the full asking price, and they lock in the profit on that property at the full asking price. And the stamp duty contribution is accounted for as a marketing expense. It doesn't come out, although the cash obviously comes out of the profit from that property, it's in the accounts, it just shows as a marketing expense. And that's how they're able to say in their accounts, look at the price we're selling our properties for. Okay, but developers might say that they need to protect the future value of the development, but no one gets to just set the prices, the market prices. The market sets the prices, not what a developer decides. And they're doing this to protect their share price. They're doing it. Yes, they will sucker a lot of naive buyers into that kind of stuff. But it is not your problem as a buyer that the agent wants to protect their future value. It's like, that's your problem, Mr. Developer. It's not my problem. The future value of the development is whatever the market says it is. Right now, today, if you don't have anyone else offering to buy this property, and I don't think you do, because a lot of them don't right now, this is what I'm offering. Now, you might choose to accept their stamp duty contribution because that might actually help you get the deal over the line. I'm not saying don't accept it, but I am saying you should still push and negotiate very hard and say, I'm still not offering asking price because I still think that's way too much. Now, I don't know what the stamp duty amount will be, but you've got to ask yourself, do I think that paying 100% of the stamp duty is enough to mean that I'm not overpaying on this property? On previous live streams, someone very kindly offered, I haven't verified this, that mortgage lenders require disclosure of any incentives given to buy a property and that they cannot exceed 5%. I don't know if that's true, but it's something worth checking with your lender. But I would just, stand your ground. Have at least 2 different properties you're happy to buy and negotiate both of them off against each other to say, I will buy whoever gives me the best deal. I don't care what your future value is. That's not my problem, right? I don't want to. So basically, what they're saying is you overpay now and pay on your mortgage actual transaction price. What you're paying is a very high price, so that we can sell more at a higher value in the future. Well, nice try, guys. I just don't think that it's a consideration for the developer, not for the buyer. And if you are, it doesn't matter whether it's a new home or a used home. If you're the only offer in town, you're the only offer in town. They don't have to accept your offer. They might hold out for more. They might wish they'd taken your offer, and there's no control you have over that, right? All you can do is keep on saying, this is a reasonable, fair market offer, okay? And if they say, well, don't believe mainstream media headlines, ask them why not. Don't just accept that. Whenever an estate agent or a developer says to you, don't believe the mainstream media, ask them, okay, fine. I'm not saying I do believe them, but why shouldn't I believe them? Okay? There are broadsheets, not tabloids, reporting studies from credible university sources, Oxford Economics, the ONS, the RACS. Are you telling me I should ignore the RACS? Go back to that video I've done, like the previous one, 16 reasons house prices are going to collapse in 2023, and look at and just say to the agent, this is what the mainstream media is reporting. Tell me why it's wrong. Tell me your argument. And they'll probably sound like that other joker who I read out earlier about all his own guff about why it's not going to go down. Nothing backed up with any fact or data whatsoever. And guys, so let me now come back to the point about my confidence in my stated 35% peak to trough house price falls. I'll put that back on the screen now. Sorry, always talking, get a dry mouth. Got to keep going. So first of all, my 35% figure, it's not precise. It's not absolutely spot on. I don't know exactly what the peak to trough difference will be, but that is my best guess, my best estimate. Do not take my word for this. Hear my reasons, consider them, make your own decision. But do not just take my word for this, okay? But let me elaborate on why I am still confident that is the case. By the way, am I saying that nothing will change my mind? No, I'm not saying nothing will change my mind. So big things could happen that would change my mind on this. For example, if there was sudden, unexpected, massive government intervention into the housing market because they want to try and win an election, and they suddenly announce insane amounts of stimulus, well, that's going to affect it. I'm not expecting that at the moment, even though today the newspapers are reporting that house builders are begging for the Help to Buy scheme to be reinstated. I'm not expecting that to happen at the moment. But if it happens, it could change stuff. If Help to Buy is reinstated, first of all, I don't think it's a good thing for buyers. I think there's a lot of risk in there. Secondly, I don't think it's good for the house price market overall. I think that basically the Help to Buy scheme has been, what's the word I'm looking for? An artificial prop to house prices. And it's artificially pulled up other values, which doesn't help affordability on a wider scale. So I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not expecting Help to Buy. I did see some genuinely good news today, which is that there is a chance that at the end of this year, the energy price cap's going to be lower than expected, like £750 lower per year than expected. I haven't worked out what that means. If that's true, though, that's genuinely good news. But that worked out at about 60 quid a month on average. Not enough to change the economy, is it? So 35% is my national average prediction from peak to trough. I don't know exactly how long that's going to take. I think it'll take at least 2 years. So if it began at the coalface, it began in the summer 2022. you're going to be talking summer 2024 at the coalface before it's finished. But in terms of reporting lag, move that 6 to 9 months later. Okay. But I'm looking out every single day for signs that this economy, that the UK economy is going to find growth. And I cannot currently see or find anything that makes me think that it's going to put more money in everyone's pockets anytime soon. All I can see is things getting worse. I can see redundancies increasing. I can see, today, here we are, Bank of England. This is a story out on Bloomberg. I think it's today. And it talks about UK wage inflation points to another big rate hike this week. In other words, the Bank of England is saying, well, wages are going up quite strongly. We don't want that. We want to squash wage inflation down because it'll drive inflation up. We don't want that. So they're expecting another 0.5% rise on Thursday. And if you go on and read what that will mean for the economy, it's just nothing. Yes, it'll be good in bringing inflation down. In the long run, that will be good. But in the short term, as in the next 12 to 18 months, it's just pain. So, we have not yet beaten inflation. People say, oh, inflation is going to come down this year. Well, yeah, inflation naturally comes down after a big spike anyway, because it starts. Inflation is always year on year. We know if you're new to the channel, you won't have heard me talk about how meaningless year on year can be. But naturally, inflation, let's hope it doesn't turn into hyperinflation, will start to fall. Okay, so the UK government's target of halving inflation this year that's something you could probably expect it to do on its own. So that's and it's still, but a 5% is still not low, still not good, right? People's genuine spending power and disposable income isn't going to get better, even if inflation has come down to 5%. Okay, anytime this year. And then talking about, the recession may not be as bad as it's going to be. Oh, it is going to be really bad. Oh no, it's not going to be really bad. Oh, it's going to be really, really bad. It's worth remembering that the news cycle relies on playing tennis with our feelings, right? Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be bad. It's going to be good, thank God. Oh, no, it's going to be bad again. And this is what the news cycle always does. Week in, week out, good, bad, good, bad. And if you look at the headlines, it's just exhausting and you don't know what to think, right? But if you actually look at the numbers, so for example, you see a headline that goes, inflation's falling. Well, that sounds good, doesn't it? Does that mean everything's getting better? No, it's still a record high. It's still higher than any time in the last 40 years. Oh. You see what I mean? If you don't understand the numbers, it's impossible to get anything meaningful out of the headlines. And that's why I spend a lot of my time looking at the numbers. So I think that things are going to be worse than predicted. They always are. And don't forget, in the last big downturn, everyone, all the banks, all the traders, all the investors, they were all like, no, it's going to be fine. Those guys calling a price crash, they're idiots. Those guys calling a financial crisis, they're idiots. 99% of investors and economists and journalists were basically calling out people who called it correctly as being wrong. It's worth remembering that. Almost everybody got it wrong last time. Okay? And I'm absolutely staggered to see that chap, Nick Banford, saying that he's worried the house prices are going to continue their out of control rise. Not anytime soon, not within the next 5 years at least are they going to be. You might get weird little bounces here and there, but in terms of actually restoring long-term upward trend, it's not going to happen in the next few years, as far as I can see. Okay. So my national average is 35%. It will vary regionally. I think the areas that have the lowest house price falls, or the smallest house price drops, will be maybe 15%, and the ones with the biggest house price drops maybe as much as 50%. I don't know. I don't make any predictions about which regions those are. And 35% is my approximate guess. Okay. But am I wobbling or having doubts about this? No, I'm not. At the moment, the war is being talked about. The war in Ukraine is now being discussed. We're going on for years. We're just starting to get tanks together. The tanks aren't even going to arrive till March. Everything about it looks like this war is going to rumble on for years. That's not good for anybody, except for people that manufacture arms, of course. But it's not good for anyone else. we're going through a painful recalibration economically as well as with house prices, and those two things are wedded to each other, whether we like it or not. There are going to be political machinations happening, and they're going to have a strategy to try and win the election. Okay, and they're going to pull something out of the bag when it comes to campaigning time. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it will be at house prices, and maybe it will make a difference at that point. But I don't know. It's not going to be enough to turn the whole market around. I mean, it might create a little false bounce when they announce some great stamp duty holiday or something. But again, that won't help in the long term. So my confidence in my 35% figure is unmoved. It's unchanged. I remain confident, like 85% confident in that figure. I really do. Subject to change if any major impacts change, but at the moment it's all looking worse and worse. Yes, you get a bit of good news here and a bit of news there, but if you look at all of it across the whole spectrum of news, political news, economic news, financial news, employment news, company news, interest rates, the whole lot, it's just getting worse. But what if I'm wrong? Okay, I could be wrong, right? It's the question I ask myself more than any other. What if I am wrong? If I'm wrong, and people watching this decide to postpone their purchase decision because of what I'm saying, and I turn out to be wrong, and suddenly house prices start growing again, then yeah, there is a risk that you will be left behind and not be able to buy, and you've missed the dip to buy it, if I'm wrong. Okay? And there might be places in the UK that won't see this trough. Which is why I say to everybody that the only way to be sure what's happening in the marketplace that you want to buy is to be out viewing properties. There is no other way. There's no source of data. With Best Agent, we are very close to releasing something which is going to give county by county and London borough by London borough weekly updates on new properties coming to the market and the price of the new properties, so that we can start to see a picture of what's happening. Because there's so much stuff that's just sitting there for months and months, some of it even years, that adversely affects an average. So it makes the average even less. We're also going to look at doing median prices. And when we release it, which I hope is going to be soon, it's going to have all kinds of problems and anomalies in it and stuff, but it's going to be released in beta, and we're going to put it out there for you guys to see. And hopefully with feedback from everybody, we'll be able to start to make it actually usable and give you guys much more helpful information of what's happening at the coalface. But until then, you need to be out viewing. If you're out viewing, being nice to agents, understand that they have a job to do and that agents are facing a very, very, very difficult market right now. Don't be surprised that they're being optimistic and saying that it's going to be okay. They want you to buy. They're not going to say, oh dear me, no. They're not going to talk themselves out of a deal, right? That's not their job. Their job is to work for the seller, and you shouldn't think less of them for doing that. That's why I say disregard the guff, right? Disregard doesn't mean it just means they may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view, okay? And if you make an offer, make sure it's your maximum comfortable offer, given what you think is going to happen in the future, in the next few years. You must consider the worst case scenario, okay? You must ask yourself, what do I think the worst case, what do you, the buyer, think is the worst case scenario for where you're going to buy in terms of what the economy and house prices might do and how might that affect you? And as long as you're comfortable with the worst case scenario in the place that you're buying, and you don't just suffer from confirmation bias and tell yourself everything's going to be fine. Oh, the worst case scenario is not going to be that bad. And you make a confident decision based on your own assessment of the worst case scenario in the area that you want to buy when you've been out looking at properties, then buy with confidence. Okay? Buy with confidence if you've been through that process. Jesus, there are 547 of you watching this. Wonder what's happened to the oh, look at that. We've had another, I didn't share it. So, the subscribers numbers jumped to 9964. I wish I'd actually been able to show you that on screen. It was quite fun to watch. 9964 is where we've got to with subscribers during the call, which is quite a big jump. That's nearly 20 people. I'm kind of hoping that I can go to bed tonight without having to drink champagne. I've got a really early start in the morning. Don't get me to 10,000 tonight, please. Tomorrow, brilliant. Not tonight. No, stop. Stop subscribing. I want an early night. Please stop subscribing. Let's go and take some questions, guys. Let's go and take some questions. Was there anything else I wanted to show you? I've shown you. Oh, yes. I want to show you this. This is a comment I got today as well. I don't know who Gary Bird is, but Gary Bird on YouTube said, I'm a retailer. It's mega tough out there at the moment. Not seen anything like this for 30 years. People are not spending money. My industry has stock backing up in warehouses all over Europe. I don't know what industry he's in. Don't know who he is. And it's totally anecdotal. But, you know, that definitely reflects what I think is happening out there. I also know of people. I was talking to someone at the beginning of the week. I won't tell you. He works in banking, and I said, "How's it going?" He said, "It's terrible. I've been making people redundant." And I was like, "What?" Yeah, and you know, this kind of stuff hasn't hit the headlines yet. There are redundancies. Anecdotally, I'm hearing all over the place of more and more redundancies happening. More and more companies running into trouble. There was news out last week about the record jump in December of companies in distress, and it's not going to get any easier anytime soon. Today, we were out with the kids, and we went out somewhere for lunch in Exeter. That would normally be packed on a Sunday lunchtime. It's a place that's got really good value food. It's not expensive. It's absolutely in every man's place to go for lunch. It's always busy. And I mean, this is a place that can seat like nearly 200 people. And there were 10 of us in there. You know, things are not normal out there. I just can't see it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Shall we take some questions? Was there anything else I haven't shown you? I've shown you that. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's get rid of those then and stop sharing and get into the questions and the comments. What have you guys been doing there? Oh, you've been, wow, loads of you. Okay. Let's take some comments. Okay. So here we are. It's just randomly picked. Someone called M on YouTube. No 35% drop. Houses cost 2K per month per meter squared to build, not including kitchens and bathrooms, floor covering, etc. plus the plot. Do the maths and be realistic. Okay, so whoever M is, their argument is because it costs that much, people are going to pay. That is not doing the maths in terms of doing the maths of what people can afford. That's exactly the kind of argument that makes me go, nope, absolutely, that doesn't change my mind at all. Bear with me while I find some more. Do we have any questions? Oh yes, someone has said, I think it was Annie Anonymous said that I should get Disregard the Guff t-shirts and merch made up. What do you think, guys? That'd be quite fun, wouldn't it? I wouldn't mind doing. That'd be quite fun if anyone actually wanted to get those. XL2828 asks, when making an offer, should it be subject to survey and valuation? Yes, and to contract. Subject to survey, valuation, and contract. But just subject to contract is enough. Hi, Regina. Kareem Slimani says, where can we see legit sold house prices from the last 3 to 6 months? You can't. Right? That's the problem. That's why you have to be out there viewing properties to see, because only then will you see what properties are selling at what price they're selling for, which ones aren't selling. I'm not doing regional predictions. Don't care how you are. How many people ask? Not doing it. Thomas Byrne, am I aware of anyone doing my work in Ireland? I'm afraid not. King of Death, there's a cheery name for you. King of Death on YouTube says, where can we find out if January house prices are down and where? The earliest we will know about that will be when the Halifax and Nationwide release their figures for January, which will be in February, I think. Now, that doesn't give you much regional difference, and it's only, so I think Halifax, for example, is about 14% of the market. So it only tells you what's happening to prices that are affected by mortgages. Although I saw an article this week that says cash buyers are getting 6% cheaper deals than people buying mortgages. factor that in, right? So when the Halifax and Nationwide give their prices out of the deals that are being done with mortgages, it's a small chunk of the market. I think between them it's about 20-30% something, and cash buyers get 6% less. So Halifax and Nationwide, you won't see the Land Registry or the ONS reporting January house prices until about, well, they've reported November's, so in 2 months. In March, they will do, but it'll be January completions. It won't be the deals that were agreed in January. It'll be January completions. Geez, guys, the comments stream is flying past so fast. Henry Rapson asks a very fair question. Repeating a great, okay, why has your 35% prediction not changed despite rates falling from 6% to 4.5%? I assume you mean mortgage rates, Henry. That is a very fair question. So mortgage rates change every single month. I'm making a long-term prediction over the next 2 years. I'm not going to change my prediction every time rates change. And rates go up, rates go down. And you know, this is, my prediction is not just based on mortgage rates, right? Mortgage rates only affects a part of the market, not the entire market, a very large part of the market, except first-time buyers more than anyone else. And rates have fallen from 6 to 4.5% quite quickly, but 4.5% is still way higher than they were, and it's still affecting affordability. And there are still people who can't afford to buy at those prices. So that's why it hasn't changed. You know, it's the economy, it's politics, it's mortgage rates, it's Bank of England, it's inflation, it's all of those things. Mortgage rates is one significant, but one part of about 5 major things that contribute to what's happening to house prices. Frederick UK says, I would buy that disregard the guff t-shirt in a heartbeat. I'll wear it to every viewing. We're gonna have to look into that. That should be fun. What else? Why can you get a better deal if you're a cash buyer? Just because it's a guaranteed sale? Asks Pedro Alonso on YouTube. There are far fewer uncertainties if you are a seller when accepting an offer from a cash buyer. A cash buyer isn't relying on anyone else to be able to proceed with the deal, whereas a mortgage buyer is relying on the mortgage company and a survey. So a lot more time, a lot more cost, and even if the buyer with the mortgage wants to pay the price you're asking, the mortgage company might go, no, sorry, we're downvaluing it. So an offer from a cash buyer has a higher degree of certainty to it. That's why. And it's also why, if you are a buyer with a mortgage, having a mortgage in principle already lined up makes you much more of a certainty than a first-time buyer or a buyer that hasn't yet organized their mortgage. And on that note, I'll just quickly get my plug in for my mortgage guys, because they're amazing. So if you don't have a mortgage and you want to talk to independent mortgage brokers that do whole of market mortgages and therefore have a much better chance of finding the best mortgage for you, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. It's on screen now. It's in the link below in the description as well. So please go and check out those guys. These are hand-picked guys that I trust, all right? That's why they are there. Right, let's get back. Oh, Jackie Carvey. Hi, Jackie. I think it was you, Jackie. Did you say the other day that you were watching a movie and then you saw my live stream come on and stopped the movie to watch me? That's outstanding fan behavior and definitely deserves a t-shirt when I've got them. You make a point responding to Pedro about no chain, you guessed. Now, all the people I know who are trying to sell and buy at the moment have all had their chains break. And this is what I predicted. This is why I wrote it in that Sunday Times article, with the one that had the headline, forget 2023, don't buy a house in 2024, which was not my headline, right? But in that article, I said 2023 is going to be the hardest year to move house. Never mind prices. It's going to be the hardest year to move house for a long time because of the amount of uncertainty, because of the turmoil within the conveyancing industry, turmoil in the mortgage markets, people losing their jobs, in mortgage brokers, in estate agents. There's a huge amount of turmoil in the industry behind the scenes, and that contributes to deal uncertainty and to deals not being progressed and chains not being held together, right? I mean, people say, what's important about an estate agent? One of the most valuable skills of a great estate agent is holding a chain together. It is a highly skilled job, and it's worth its weight in gold. If an agent holds your chain together for you and gets it over the line, you've moved. If they haven't, you don't move. And the agent loses as well. It's not because they didn't want you to move, it's because it's that difficult. All right, so that brings me to the point of this, which is if you are selling and buying, and provided you're not worried about prices suddenly shooting up in the middle of it, if I was selling and moving to buy right now, I would sell separately, sell complete. I would then be an unencumbered buyer whose offer is going to be accepted straight away because I don't have to wait for something to sell. Yes, that means I'd have to find somewhere to live temporarily in the meantime. Yes, most lenders will port your mortgage and give you, I think, a maximum of 6 months. You've got to ask your lender. They don't all say yes, but some of them do. But that's what I'd be doing, because I've heard so many people say, my offer has been rejected because I haven't sold my property yet. How frustrating must that be, right? Imagine that. You've got a property to sell, you want to buy, you've got your finances lined up, and they don't even entertain your offer because you haven't sold your property yet, okay? So if you want to massively improve your chances of getting your sale and purchase done right now, and you're willing to accept the risk of falling between two stools and the hassle of having to live somewhere in the middle, get your sale done first, be in a position to buy, then you are an unencumbered buyer with a much better chance of having your offer accepted. That's what I'd be doing. Oh, that's a really good question, actually. And She Became a Butterfly on YouTube asks, from your industry peeps, how long are sales taken to go through on average? All right. I don't have any concrete or dependable data to answer this question with, but anecdotally from the agents I'm talking to, it's a bloodbath trying to hold deals together and trying to get sales to go through. It is massively frustrating. The best estate agents are getting the deals done and over the line, and they deserve immense credit for doing it. When, you know, an estate agent is affected by the survey, by the conveyancing, by the lender, by the other people's conveyancers. The number of people that one agent dealing with one transaction can be let down by is about 6, right? And with the amount of turmoil happening, it's happening. Agents are being let down by things outside their control. How long does it take to go through on average? Right. One of the reasons that sellers are not entertaining offers from buyers who've got something to sell is because it's taking too long to sell right now. Okay. That should answer the question better than anything else I can say, I think. Ian Quinn. Thanks, Charlie. I sold in November. I am now holding to buy and moved into rented based on my own thoughts, informed by your views and the market research I'm doing. Fantastic, Ian. Good move. I think you got out right at the top. Benoit says, is there any risk that banks or investors will fill the gap of normal buyers? BTL is still good without a mortgage. Yeah, buy to let, if you're a cash buyer, buy to let is still a very good investment. And we need cash. See, the good thing about a landlord who owns your property, if you're a tenant, right? If your landlord owns your property without a mortgage, he's not being forced to put rent up because of his mortgage going up, and he's not being forced to sell against his will because he can't afford his mortgage. So a landlord without, if I was a tenant right now and I was looking at properties to move into, and I wasn't having to fight with other people to get it, I'd be asking, does the landlord have a mortgage on this property? And is there any prospect of them having to sell or being forced to sell anytime soon? I'd be asking those questions because I keep on hearing about people. I've got really good friends of mine who've been living in a rented place for 10 years. And now the landlord says, I'm really sorry, we've got to sell up. And it's a nightmare. Welcome. Hi, Chris Walken, sneaking in there. Christopher Walken, disclosure, guys. Christopher Walken, hang on. That's the wrong one. Sorry. Christopher Walken is an estate agency supremo. He's a commentator and he does a lot of video interviews with people in the industry. And he's saying that buy-to-let with a mortgage is even better because of the effects of inflation. Who for, Chris? The tenant or the landlord? Might be for the landlord. It's not good for tenants who've got landlords with mortgages that they can't afford. All right, Splestisser. Splestisser asks, Charlie, what's your Halifax nationwide month-on-month change prediction for January? Oh, that's a really tough one. It's tough because for two reasons. First of all, a number, remembering that Halifax nationwide are only reporting transactions that have completed with mortgages. And first-time buyers have been hit the hardest. And so the average transaction value of mortgages might be a bit higher. And so I'm not that certain that Halifax nationwide are going to be showing a big drop month on month. I think it will be a drop, but not necessarily a big one, because I think that of all people taking out mortgages, the ones with the larger deposits tend to be at a higher value. And the ones with the smaller deposits, who are the ones most hit by the current situation, are the smaller values. So it is possible that there are fewer transactions happening with mortgages at lower values and more happening at higher values than proportionally than there were before. So you might even see, I mean, if they report that prices have gone up by 0.5% or 1% or something in January, then you can just wait for all of the, you see, it was a blip. House prices are going back up again. But the scenario I've just described would explain why they might show month-to-month increase. And I hope it doesn't, because it'll really, really upset. It will really confuse a lot of people. And I would be waiting for the ONS prices. I know that that's further behind, but that's still what I'd be waiting for. This is why averages are so dangerous, guys. Averages are so dangerous. So many questions. Michael Sabion, hope I've pronounced that right. If you say go view and view, do you recommend to do a mortgage in principle? Some estate agents don't entertain when they hear you haven't got. Yes, 100%. I think you must have just joined. Definitely always, if you've got a mortgage in principle and you're bidding on a property against someone who doesn't have a mortgage in principle, your offer will be of higher value and higher importance to them. So yes, and again, guys, if you haven't got a broker, talk to my guys. There's the link at the bottom of the screen and the link below. MHWC. By the way, if anyone wonders, MHWC stands for Moving Home with Charlie, which is the website. mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. Cool, you guys, there's a lot of questions tonight. It's going crazy. Evo Real Time on YouTube says there are already 20 to 35% reductions in asking prices. This is true. There are. It's a very good point. But we must remember that asking prices do not equal house prices. It's worth remembering that. Okay, Red Eye Jedi. That's a great question. Red Eye Jedi 83, great name by the way. I'm looking at a property this week that's 250,000, which is 20% above identical properties sold on the same street 4 months ago. Any tips to dealing with unrealistic sellers? So in that scenario, what I would do, I would say to the agent, what is the seller's situation? How motivated? So don't accuse them straight out of the gates of being unrealistic. It's going to put their backs up. But I'd say I'm interested in that property. I'd like to know what the seller situation is. Is this a no onward chain sale, or is it an onward chain sale where they need to hit this price? If they can't get their price, they're not going to sell. Is there any point in seeing the property and point out to them the properties that that sold on the same street 4 months ago? Say, ask the agency, see those properties that sold on the same street 4 months ago, 20% less. What's the difference in price? That's the approach I take. Just try and have a discussion with them. Don't be confrontational. Don't be adversarial. Open up a dialogue. See what you can find out. And you might find out that they're just totally unrealistic. There's no point in viewing it. But it's still worth going to view, because you'll get to know the agent, and the agent will get to know you. Christopher Walken saying that 20 to 35% reductions is bullshit on price reductions. No, Chris, there are anecdotal ones. There are areas where price reductions are happening. Hyper local, remember? There are. I've seen that. I've seen the examples coming on Twitter. But guys, if any of you are making those claims and you want to put you want to put some links up to show them. I saw one this evening from Bournemouth where it's the asking price has been dropped almost 45% since the summer. It's probably, again, it's a one-off, but hey. Yes, this is zero alcohol beer, someone's asking. You see that? Beck's Boot alcohol free. Come on. I'm trying to get the focus. There we are. 614. Hi, welcome to all the 25 of you who just joined recently. Okay. Chopsky. Hello, Chopsky. Welcome. It's a new name. Chopsky says, I made a cash offer early December in North London. Okay, assuming it was accepted, due to exchange in plus or minus 2 weeks, but feeling now I might be overpaying. I offered 1.2 on a 1.25 house. Suggestions. Okay, this is the best way to answer that question. So we've got a cash buyer who has offered 4% below asking, I think that is, roughly, and had it accepted, but now feels that they're overpaying. I will tell you a short story of a friend of mine a long time ago back in London. She was a cash buyer. She'd inherited money. She was buying a flat and she agreed to pay, and this was in 2008, 2009. She'd agreed to pay 500,000 for this flat. She'd agreed to pay it through Foxtons. And I only discovered this because she was the girlfriend of a friend of mine at the time, and we were out chatting, and I discovered, she said, I bought a flat. And I said, which one? And she told me, and I knew she'd overpaid. Even back then, I just knew she'd overpaid, because back then I had London estate agents were my clients. I had hundreds of them, and I knew what was happening at the coalface. And I said, I'm really worried you're overpaying. She goes, well, yeah, I don't want to overpay, but I really like the flat, so I want to keep it. And I said, if you like, I'll renegotiate it for you. And she said, that'd be amazing. And I said, but when you do attempt to renegotiate a renegotiation like this, you must accept the risk that you may lose the property. And if you're not willing to accept the risk of losing the property, don't renegotiate. So that's point number one. If you're not willing to accept the risk of losing the property, don't renegotiate. However, having said that, if you know you're overpaying, don't want to overpay, you must be prepared to walk away if you don't get what you think is the new fair price. And so I then got an email from her giving me authorization to negotiate on her behalf with Foxtons. And she emailed Foxtons and she copied me on the email. And I know Foxtons very well. I've known lots of friends there. And I was incredibly impressed with just how vigorously Foxtons defended this renegotiation attempt. It was in Fulham. And I remember the first call I got, the guy was, if I hadn't been a seasoned person at dealing with estate agents, I would have been totally taken in by it. And he basically went, it's absolutely chance. I mean, this flat will sell at 500,000 all day long. We can't renegotiate at this late stage. There's no chance the seller's going to accept a lower price. By the way, the lower price I offered was 470,000, so £30,000 off the price, right? That was the new price that I agreed with the buyer who's buying. And I listened to his guff, and he went, very, very convincing, and very sort of, he had chuntering away like that. But we can't possibly, we've agreed a price. He was really doing all of the laying it on thick. And when he finished his guff, I just said, well, if you're right, you'll have another buyer. But if you're wrong, you won't. And this is still the only offer. And he chunted off again, and I repeated again. So he said, well, I'll have to call you back. And I then got a call back about an hour later from his boss, the manager of the office, who was an even more seasoned professional and really pulled out all the stops to make me say that I was risking losing my friend's apartment, and this was a very, very dangerous thing to do, and they did not want to go back to the seller and have to renegotiate this price. And it was, really harsh stuff. But I'd been empowered to negotiate, and she'd accepted the risk of it. And I said, you may be right. You may be right. You probably are, but she's no longer prepared to pay more than 470. So if you could just let me know whether or not the seller's prepared to accept for. And this was quite close to exchange. It was like a week or two away from exchange. And guess what? The seller accepted it. And I saved my friend £30,000, with which she bought a second-hand Aston Martin. How about that? Nice little cherry on top of that story. I hope that answers your question, Chopsky. You've got to form your own decision based on the market and whether or not saving some money is more important to you than securing the property. And if it's not, don't risk it. David Harrison. My advice, Charlie, is don't bother arguing with sheep/group thinkers. I.e. the 90% is a lost cause. Even when you prove them right, they'll still just be the sheep. David, that's true. I don't disagree with that point. But the reason that I keep going here is because there are a lot of buyers sitting on the fence, and they're open to this. And if a video like this stops even one person from falling into negative equity, it was worth it. I know people who life was great for them. This is back in the 80s, right? Late 80s. Good job. Bought a house with a mortgage. Everything was going great. Their life was great. They had a family, and everything was going great, right? And they weren't overextending themselves even, and they bought at sensible interest rates. They weren't overextending themselves. It was a very modest property, and a really good job. And in a very short space of time, when the economy turned, the first thing that happened was he lost his job and couldn't get another one. It was a job in the city. And the second thing that happened was mortgage interest rates went whoop, and he ended up having the house repossessed, and he ended up owing the bank a huge sum of money, even after the house had been repossessed, because when they sold it, they couldn't get, because house prices had come down so far, they couldn't get the money back for the mortgage. So he owed them the difference on the house. And it just destroyed his career and his prospects. And he had a young family, and it was a nightmare. It decimated his mental health. And I don't care about people who say, oh, in the long run, house prices always go up. It still doesn't make it okay for this to happen to people. And I just want people to avoid this. And to me, if I had the risk of buying at the top, falling into negative equity, potentially losing my house and being in debt, that's one risk. Or the other risk is missing the market and not being able to afford to buy as the market goes up. Which is the greater risk? Yeah. It's just a no-brainer for me. So many questions. Guys, I don't do regional predictions. I don't do regional questions. I don't do questions on an individual property. I can't do that, possibly. Cannot possibly do that. Oh, no, hang on a second. No. Oh, no. I might have to get the champagne out. Hang on a second, guys. I should have shared it with you. Oh. Hang on, sorry. It's ticking up. It's ticking up so fast. What is going on? 20 more to go to 10,000. I did not expect that to happen. Well, what were we? 940 when we started. Let me keep going with the questions. We'll keep that there. Next question. I'm just going to scroll up and go to some earlier questions and random ones that I missed. Oh, Chopsky, thank you for the tip. Appreciate that. Okay, here's a good one. Dreamer on YouTube asks, what should I make of guide price and offers over in this market? I want to offer lower. Is that bad buyer's etiquette? No, it's not bad buyer's etiquette. You do not need to worry about offending anyone making an offer, okay? They'll get over it. No one's going to be hurt or injured or wounded. They will get over it. So there are two answers. Let's deal with offers over first, right? Offers over, if the asking price is realistic, offers over is totally legitimate and sensible. And if it's done because an agent has listed the price, as I said, just below, right, the market's coming down and they put the asking price below that, then they will get offers over because they'll get competing buyers. And so offers over is not an unrealistic. I can't concentrate with that number going up in front of me. Offers over is not. Anne-Marie! Sorry, she told me to call her and bring the champagne. Anne-Marie! I think we're going to need the champagne. Sorry, guys. Offers over. There are some very, very simple, very silly asking prices where agents who are unrealistic or too inexperienced have asked too high, and they put offers over, and they're not getting any, and that's just silly. So, unfortunately, I can't give you a straight answer on offers over. It depends how sensibly the property is priced. Guide price just means they don't really know what to say. Guys, just disregard asking prices. If it's a property that you like, that you think is within your reach, go and see it. Work out what you think it's worth. Disregard the asking price. Disregard offers over and guide price. The only thing that matters is whether or not you are competing against other buyers or not. And if you're not, make your offer that you think is your maximum comfortable offer. Oh, guys, no. Ah! I was not expecting that to happen. Oh God, that's amazing. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. It took nearly 18 months to get to 1,000 subscribers, and it's taken less than 4 months to get to 10,000. I am absolutely blown away. Where's your glass?
Okay, well done.
Right, guys, I'm going to pop the bubbly. Is that okay? Is that okay with everyone if I do this? Because that's amazing. I wish I could hear all the cheering. It's very quiet here, but I'll probably just work the kids up as well. But I've got myself a bottle of whatever that is. And so much for my alcohol-free beer. And I hope I'm not going to spill champagne all over my desk, because Amory just ran up 2 flights of stairs. So it's probably all shaken up, isn't it? I'm going to... There we go. Oh. You guys are amazing. That's really, really incredible. That's truly, truly amazing. I really did not expect that to happen on this live stream. You are fantastic. Cheers and thank you to every single one of you. I'm waiting for Amory to come on. Have one with me as well. Yeah, Nick Jones says Charlie's calling in sick tomorrow. I don't get to do that. I work for myself, unfortunately. That doesn't... Wait, why don't you have this one? You've got to come and say hi.
No.
You got to come and say hi. Amory's got to come and just you got to clink glasses with me on camera. Just the glasses. Come on. Thank you, guys. Sorry. I will get back to the questions as soon as I've given Amory and clinked a glass and had a sip of champagne. Oh. People are saying hi, Anne-Marie. Annie Anonymous says hi, Anne-Marie. Cool. Oh, thank you, Benny. Benny's having a glass. Okay, guys, I'll tell you what I'm going to do as a special celebration. The camera's here. I'm going to clink my glass here.
Cheers.
Oh, no, they can't see. Wait, because of... Can you reach further? It's got to be here.
Cheers. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Cheers. Thank you, John Rocks. That's very generous of you. So, would anybody like to come and say hi and be in the live stream? If you would, I can share a link with you that you can click and you can come in here and say hi. Or shall I just keep on going with the questions? Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you, Roy. Roy Strawberry, thank you. Oh, Anne-Marie's. Oh, what a great moment. That's so cool. Thank you, guys. Right. Let me do some more questions. Oh, God, so many of you saying thank you. I will go and read all of these afterwards. Paul, Joe, Michael Biggins, Martha Solomon. Hi there, Jay Tour, Chopsky, Jay Lomax, Tobias Marks, Fee, Gavin Ward, Bronia K, and she became TC, Salone Sis, she became Butterfly, R. Lloyd, Neil. Thank you, guys. John Snow, thank you so much. Amazing. Right. Okay. Let me find a question, guys. This is back to the questions. Let's get back to the questions. Cosima, thank you very much. Okay, it's come on. And if you haven't had your question answered, now's the time. Put your question back in the board. I can't scroll. It's too far. Greg, thank you very much. Greg Cawthorne, thank you very much, Greg. Really appreciate that. Cheers. Joe Brand, Octave Cotet, David Holloway, thank you. Right, question. Okay, Amir. Amir says on YouTube, just pulled out of buying because seller hasn't found a property and wants me to wait for them to buy. They previously said they would move out and rent. My offer was 100% cash, good move. I mean, I can't blame you for that. I can't blame you for that. And I think to anyone else in that situation whose seller is not moving out when they said they would, it's important at the point that you make an offer to agree a deadline and ask the seller, say, how long do you need? You tell me by when you're happy to commit to moving out, because I cannot sit here and wait forever. That's what I would do. Don't force it on them. Ask them for a reasonable deadline and make sure that they understand. Say, and you understand that if you haven't moved out by this date, I will pull out because I want to find somewhere else to live. Or maybe you'll just say you'll start looking elsewhere. You'll still live in with them, but you're now actively looking elsewhere. So, Amir, what you might want to do is just say, look, yeah, if you move out before I find somewhere else, then let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to start looking somewhere else. That's what I do. I'm getting questions. So, okay, hi there. So this is Chelsea Clements says, what are my views on shared ownership? So shared ownership works for certain people in a certain situation. I won't go into the detail now. I'm going to have a whole video on that at some point. I might even be getting to talk to a housing association about exactly what their terms are. I think generally speaking, it's a lot more complicated, much harder to sell when you need to sell. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it depending on your circumstances. Next question. TC. Not a question, a thank you. We followed your advice and got 100 grand off asking price. You are a star. Can't thank you enough. You are welcome. I love hearing stories like that. I love hearing stories like that. Next question. That's so cool. Annie Anonymous says, are people who are not in a chain more attractive as a buyer and can use it as a leverage tool in their favor? Yes, absolutely. Yes. AH89. Is there any way of seeing, is there any way of seeing if a house was bought with cash or mortgage on land registry? Yes, you can see at the land registry whether or not a house still has an outstanding mortgage on it. Anyone can do that. It's public information. I think you have to buy it. It's like £2 or £3 to buy it. Your conveyancer can also do it for you, and will have to do that anyway. But you can go and look up any address and find out if there's a mortgage on it at the land registry. Okay, Lil XCX. Viewed a house on a new development last September, but it was overpriced. Advisor said no incentives of offers. Same house still on 4 months later. Emailed offer 3 weeks ago, no reply. Should we email again? So yeah. I mean, if you've had no reply to the email, it might just be in their junk mail or inbox. Either send them another email, just ask them to acknowledge receipt. Don't ask them to answer. Just ask them to acknowledge receipt of the offer. Guys, do you want me to leave the subscriber number on the screen, the counter, or take it off? On or off? So yeah, if you anyone that's emailed an offer and not heard back after, let's say, a week, just email again and ask for them to confirm whether they've received the offer. Don't put pressure on for an answer. Just say, I was wondering if you'd received the offer or not. As often as not, that will prompt a response. Sometimes it's just really crap people on the other end who just, just having their own problems and not getting back to people. And if you don't get an answer to the email, the second email, then call them. That's what I do. On, off, on, off. Oh no, there's too many offs. I'm gonna leave it off. I cannot answer question on specific properties, guys. Please spare yourself. I cannot answer question on specific properties or specific areas. Helena SF says, should you buy a house at your full budget, or is it better to buy at a lower end within your budget, especially for first-time buyers? If you go to your full budget, you've just got less wiggle room if things go wrong. So it's always better if you can not extend yourself too much. Guys, I'm gonna quit at the top now. 1 hour and 20 minutes. This was supposed to be a half an hour live stream, but I'm just thrilled to bits. I'm gonna just look at the one more question, then that's gonna be it. Okay, we'll start with this question. This is a really good question I've had a few times privately. Question from someone. So Alex Rossi has reposted a question from someone called Craig, asking a question like, are agents legally bound to tell you the truth when asking if they have had other offers, how many, etc., or is it just good behavior? You know what? There's no law against lying. So no, they're not legally bound to tell you the truth. No salesperson that I know of. There are certain things that if you ask them, they have to confirm in writing, then they might be legally bound to tell you the truth. But in terms of how much other interest there is, not that I know of, they're not legally bound. But I tend to find that if you just ask them enough questions, you'll soon know if they're telling the truth or not. So, ever had other offers in there? Yeah. No, they haven't, right? A truthful answer from an agent sounds like this. We've had one other offer from someone who has a house to sell and the seller's not considering it. And we've had another from a cash buyer, but it was too low. At the moment, that's all the offers that we've had. So an answer like that would tend to be more truthful. But when it's just kind of very general and vague and they just want to move off that topic, it's typically, they don't want to admit they haven't got any other offers. But, you could just say, look, if you haven't got anyone else offering, it's okay. You can tell me. It's not going to hurt anybody. Just tell me the truth, please. And if they say we have got other offers, say, the first question I'd ask if they say they've got other offers is, well, why are you showing it to me then? If you've got other offers, why are you showing it to me? To which they'll probably reply, the other offers aren't high enough. To which I would say, what's the highest offer that you've had? Thank you, Octave. I'd say, what's the highest offer that you've had? And again, you're asking a direct question. And if they say, oh, I'm not allowed to reveal that, that's not true. They are. They can reveal the amount. What they cannot do, and I've heard agents who go, oh, GDPR, we can't tell you GDPR. What they cannot do is reveal the identity of a buyer. Of course they can't. That's privacy. They cannot do that. But they can tell you if they've had other offers. They absolutely can if they want to. They're not obliged to. An agent might just say, I'm not going to reveal that information. And they're entitled to say they're not going to reveal that information. They might just say, I'm not going to reveal that information. If you'd like to make an offer on the property, please let me know what it is. I'm not going to reveal my hand. I would respect an agent for saying that. I just respect it. I would. Splestisser from a London agent last week. Just offer 20 to 30k below the asking and you'll get it. So if you hear that from an agent, that's a great sign that the seller has said to the agent, I just want it sold. Please just get me an offer so I can sell it. And if they say 20 to 30k, you can probably double it. They'll probably take 50k off, even if they haven't thought it themselves. So if someone said to me, just offer 20 to 30k below asking and you'll get it, I'd probably offer 50k below asking. Right. I am tickled pink and thrilled to bits and chuffed. Thank you so much, guys. That's a long one, 1 hour and 23 minutes. If there's anyone still listening at this stage on the podcast, then you really deserve. Discord link. Okay, guys, I Discord link. I will have to put the Discord link. Let me see if I can find it quickly now and put it in the comments for you. Moving Home with Charlie's Discord server. I have a link here. I will put it in the comments on the live chat. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There's the Discord link, which is on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, but not on LinkedIn. Yeah, templates for emailing agents. I've been thinking about doing that for a while, actually. So there's the Discord link, guys. You can go and talk to each other there about what's happening. Thank you, David Nichols, for congratulations on the 10K. And next stop, 100,000, I hope. I mean, they say, if you listen to YouTubers, they say that getting from 0 to 100 is really hard. It was. It's just my mother basically watching me. But geez, I'm not being ungrateful. I'm glad for everyone that watched it. Getting to 100 to 1,000 actually happened quite quickly after. I mean, I was still so guys. It's what is it? January 23. In August 2022, I was still at about 200 subscribers, and I went from 200 to 1,000 in about a month, and I've gone from 1,000 to 10,000 in 4 months. But that was before I started getting the mainstream media coverage I'm starting to get now. But anyway, I'm going to knock it on the head. Wish you all a very peaceful good night. Send you all lots of love and luck, and look forward to seeing you on the next video. If you don't already follow me on Twitter, I'm at moving_Charlie on Twitter. All my links, there's a Linktree link. Go there, you'll see all my links to everything. Moving_Charlie is where I am most active. Instagram is great for sending me voice messages. I am getting overrun with private messages now by text. Totally overrun. I will get to all of them, but my favorite way to receive a message is by audio clip on Instagram private message. Thank you, guys. I'm going to look into the t-shirts as well. But for now, I'm going to say peace out. Have a lovely Sunday night. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye, guys.